Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We're going to unpack a narrative that is incredibly concise yet packed with an immense amount of wisdom. It's a story about deep conviction, standing your ground, and the ultimate vindication of faith. We are, of course, talking about the story of Prophet Nuh, also known as Noah, peace be upon him, and the Ark. I personally love exploring narratives like this because, they take these massive, overarching themes of human behavior and distill them down into just a few highly impactful sentences. So we're going to break down the structure of this story together and really get into the mechanics of this powerful message.
But right before we look at the text, I want you to put yourself in a very specific mindset for a second. Imagine a scenario where you're given a task and you know with absolute certainty that it's the right thing to do. It's a direct instruction. But doing it doesn't bring you praise or rewards. Actually, it does the exact opposite. It invites public mockery. People point, they whisper, they literally laugh right in your face. So, what happens to your resolve in that exact moment? Does it crumble or does it hold firm? Keep that tension in your mind, because that friction between doing what's commanded and facing public ridicule, that is the beating heart of the text we're examining today.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our source material for today. It's a single, very direct passage. It reads, "When Allah commanded Noah to build a huge ark, people laughed at him. But when the flood came, only the believers who boarded the ark were saved." And then it concludes with a totally clear takeaway. Lesson: always trust Allah, even if others mock you. Now, it's brief for sure, but please do not let that brevity fool you. Every single word here is doing heavy lifting. There is a profound chronological and emotional journey packed into just these few lines. Let's start breaking it apart.
Which brings us right to Section 1, the Divine Command.
Allah commanded Noah, to build a huge ark. Notice the scale mentioned here. The source doesn't just say an ark or a boat. It explicitly says a huge ark. And this is actually crucial for our understanding of the story. Think about it. A huge ark is not something you can just build quietly in your backyard, right? It is an inherently public, massive undertaking. By following this divine command, Prophet Noah was forced to make his obedience highly visible to literally everyone around him. He couldn't hide what he was doing. The command itself demanded a monumental, inescapable physical presence in the community. And because that action was so intensely public, it inevitably drew a reaction. Which brings us to Section 2, Mockery and the Flood. Look at how efficiently the source text structures its timeline here. We get this really rapid progression. Step 1, the command. Step 2, the immediate social pushback, the people laugh. Step 3, the environmental reality hits, the flood comes. And Step 4, the final resolution, the believers are saved. In just 2 sentences, the source material rockets us through a complete arc of cause, reaction, consequence, and ultimately salvation.
Let's focus on that second step for just a moment. People laughed at him. Just think about the sheer dismissiveness of that reaction. They didn't just casually disagree with him. They found it comical. They looked at this monumental effort, this huge ark being built on dry land, and they chose mockery. The text presents this laughter as a direct challenge to the initial command. It's basically the ultimate form of social pressure, designed entirely to make the builder feel foolish, isolated, and completely alone in his conviction.
But when the flood came, notice the heavy pivot on that word "but." Everything changes right there. The laughter, it stops. The social pressure becomes instantly irrelevant. The source text uses this sudden, undeniable arrival of the flood to completely shatter the reality of the people who are mocking. The environmental consequence arrives, and it instantly validates the monumental effort of building that huge ark in the first place.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark dividing line drawn by the text. On one side, you have the people who laughed, those who just relied on social consensus and mockery. On the other side, you have the believers who boarded the ark, the ones who actually followed the command. The text states very plainly, only the believers who boarded the ark were saved. That word "only" is doing so much work here. It signifies that the physical act of boarding the ark, which was the direct result of obeying the initial command despite all that laughter, was the exclusive path to salvation. The contrast honestly couldn't be any sharper.
This sharp contrast naturally leads us to the conclusion drawn by the source material itself. Section 3, the core lesson.
The explicit lesson provided is all about trusting despite mockery. The text distills this entire dramatic arc of the huge ark, the laughing crowds, and the devastating flood into a simple, enduring principle regarding trust. It totally shifts the focus from the physical survival of a flood to the emotional and spiritual survival against intense social pressure.
So, the crucial point is captured right here in this final quote from the text. Always trust Allah,
even if others mock you. This is the anchor of the whole piece. The text uses the extreme example of Prophet Nuh to prove that the crowd isn't always right. Laughter and mockery, they do not invalidate a divine command. The source is instructing the reader that true conviction requires maintaining trust, even and perhaps especially when it invites ridicule from the outside world.
Which brings us to the end of our analysis, and honestly leaves us with a question that extends way beyond this ancient text. The source gives us the blueprint, sure, but it's really up to us to build with it. So when you find yourself in a situation where doing what you know is deeply, fundamentally right invites the laughter of the crowd, how will you respond? How can you apply this enduring lesson of absolute trust when facing mockery in your own life today? Will you abandon the work, or are you going to keep building? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.